At FoodShare, our vision is that Toronto will be a place where all people can feed themselves, their loved ones, and their communities with dignity and joy. We advocate for food justice by supporting community-based food initiatives and through ongoing advocacy and public education. FoodShare has been fighting against this systemic oppression for more than 35 years. What does this mean? This means that we raise the voices of those within the community who are not usually heard. This includes encouraging the government to fund universal meal programs at school, opposing increasing taxes on essential life-based goods, and becoming Toronto's urban agriculture learning center. In 2012, FoodShare launched a mobile good food market to combat the presence of 6 food deserts across the GTA. Also in 2012, we delivered food to Fort Albany First Nation in James Bay, proving that it is possible to get high quality, affordable food to remote communities. And in 2012, our first school-grown rooftop garden was open. Since then, we have increased our efforts. We now have over 5 urban gardens and farms complete with composting programs, as well as partnerships with many others in the community. We host many nutrition programs, run a community kitchen, sell the Good Food Box, as well as continue to do our advocacy work. In 2018, we had animated over 1,000 community-led products and distributed over 1,680,000 pounds of fresh fruit and vegetables. We have received awards from Ontario for our efforts and had made a difference in the livelihoods of communities with the GTA. However, we know that we must continue to do our work and be facilitators of change, and to inspire others to be the change we all want to see. The community gardens and urban farmers are our source of pride at FoodShare. So let's meet the people leading the way and learn exactly what the recipe for change is. Okay. Hi, Natalie. Can you please introduce yourself by telling us where you are from, where you're going, and then tell us about the Sunshine Therapy Garden at CAMH.
Thanks so much, Tamara, and thanks everyone for being here today. So I'm Natalie, and I am the Sunshine Garden Coordinator at CAMH, and I'm also FoodShare's Community Garden Coordinator for community gardens across the city. So I started out with a teaching degree, but I had a real passion for the environment. So pretty quickly after graduating, kind of got into urban gardening, and I did some internships, and finally was able to land a job with a smaller scale organization called Pact Grow to Learn before joining in with the FoodShare team. And I'm really excited to continue to advocate for local food and local growing and nature connection in general. And in terms of the Sunshine Garden, so we did start in 2002, long before I was with FoodShare. So it's been one of the longest running urban agriculture programs on hospital grounds, especially in a mental health hospital setting, which is really exciting. So we're located right downtown Toronto, so kind of the corner of Queen and Ossington. And so what we do is we run a garden program, and we also run a greenhouse program specifically for CAMH clients, whether they're inpatients or outpatients. And the whole point of the program is that not only are we learning how to grow food, but we're just enjoying time outside in nature together. We know that nature is inherently healing and good for our mental health and our physical health. And so without having to do very much kind of what folks might expect when they hear about what a therapy garden is, it's not that we're going out and necessarily intentionally meditating or doing yoga. We're just being with plants, and we're just being with each other in nature, and that in and of itself is really healing, and something that I hope continues to spread over time. We also grow flowers on site now, which is another form of kind of mental health engagement and healing, and I noticed the power of flowers to really engage folks and bring people joy. So that's something that we've added in the last couple of years, which has been really nice. And we have a market on site, which you can see here in this photo. So every week we host a market right outside of the garden, and we sell the produce at a discounted rate to folks in the neighborhood and also folks right on site at CAMH, and then participants can take home that food for free. And we also give food to the local food bank at in Parkdale. So that's a really nice way to kind of give back to the wider community as well.
Great. Thank you for sharing. Carl, will you please share us where are you from, where you're going as an introduction, and then tell us a bit about our newest community farm, Flemo Farm.
Thank you, Tamara. Nice to meet everybody virtually. Yeah, so my name's Carl. I'm a middle-class white guy from a middle-class white neighborhood in a middle-class white town in Ontario. I've got a university degree in comparative religion, master's degree in religious studies, but about 20 years ago, I started working a bit here and there on farms. And I've been working more or less full-time as a farmer for the last 15 years. I ended my own small farm business on rented land in Brampton to start working on the Flemo Farm project. That was about a year ago. Now, in terms of where I'm going, I don't really know where I'm going. You could say I'm kind of going deeper into food justice and social justice work. Probably a better answer to say I'm going into the Flemington Park community. If you don't know, Flemington Park is northeast of downtown by the DVP and just south of Eglinton. It's considered a newcomer neighborhood where about 50% of the residents don't speak English at home and 70% of residents' first language is not English. So I'm very much a facilitator or supporter coordinator of this project. So Flemo Farm, yeah, it's this new half-acre urban farm being developed within the hydro corridor in Flemington Park. So you see the power lines overhead there, and that's me starting a soil test, and that's the first furrow on the by the BCS that was made on site. So we are transforming grass sod into food growing. The origins of Flemo Farm go back about 10 years. Depends who you ask, exactly how long this project has been in the works. But basically it's taken a very long time to get all the permits necessary to establish this farm. It involves and involved obviously lots of work with the City of Toronto and with Hydro One. Our project partner is Flemington Health Centre, and it is a project very much developed and directed by the community to meet the wishes of the community. So there were community consultations held to clarify the vision and goals of the farm. And there's a steering committee of local organizations and residents making sure that the project benefits the community. So up here are a couple of the goals and visions of the farm. So one is community engagement. So we'll be offering events, tours, workshops, volunteer opportunities, obviously just trying to get folks outside, engage with growing food, great for everyone's physical mental health, builds community, amazing learning opportunity for children and youth, all those great things. Second major goal of the project is to increase access to affordable locally grown food. So we'll be hosting a weekly farmers market where residents can buy the food that's grown on the farm. At least that's been the goal for the last 10 years. It looks like this year, because of increased food insecurity in the neighborhood, because of COVID, we're planning to donate and distribute all the harvest through local emergency food distribution networks. So we won't actually be selling food that we grow ourselves this year. We'll be donating it all to the community. So the third part is the entrepreneurial development part of the project, where we are essentially helping community members access land and resources to start their own small farm businesses. So through an application process, 5 local residents will become community farmers. And these community farmers will have free access to land, equipment, infrastructure, tools, supplies, everything they need to run their own small farm business to grow and sell food within their community. So the steering committee is prioritizing applications for people who benefit most from this access. So that means we're prioritizing applications from people who experience systemic forms of marginalization. So what you probably already know that there already are community gardens and allotment gardens within the hydro corridor. But this is the first time where there can be small farm businesses growing and selling food that is grown within the corridor. So that is what makes the community farmer program is really what makes Flemo Farm unique. And that's also what makes it a pilot project that has taken 10 years to get to this point. And it's the first of its kind in Toronto, and we're really hoping that it becomes a model for what can happen across Toronto and in other major cities across Canada. So it really is, especially the community farm program, is really trying to create like a recipe for change, like in a very solid way.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. Okay, Alonzo, can you please tell us where you're from, where you're going, and then tell us about the community compost?
Absolutely. Thanks, Tamara. Hi, everybody. I hope you can hear me well. So my name is Alonzo. I'm the community compost educator at FoodShare Toronto. My background is not very much in the agricultural industry. I come from a corporate background. And over my experience, I quickly learned that, money is not everything. And food is much more important, and more importantly, learning about how we can make food more accessible, especially organic local food, more accessible to people around us. So I started with FoodShare. I got in at the ground level, quite literally, and working with compost to learn about how not-for-profits work. And essentially, where I want to go with this is to pick up the FoodShare model and move it to Durham region where I live, and hopefully expand what they're doing out here. But a little bit more about the compost program. So I would say there's three main focuses with our program. The first one is to educate. We're dedicated to training the community on effective principles and practices of small to mid-scale composting. And that includes everything from vermicomposting, which is breaking down organic waste with worms, to backyard composting, including 3-bin compost and windrow compost. So if you're not familiar with that, that's the picture at the bottom right there. That's windrow. Very effective compost method. As you can see, it's full of life. It's teeming with microbes, which is why you get that steam. Basically we're focusing on methods that the average person can implement in their homes, in their backyards, or even at local community gardens. In educating the community, our focus is on waste diversion. So trying to keep people, teaching people about keeping waste out of the landfills, safe and proper methods of composting. And certainly last but not least is the importance of building healthy soils. I think everybody on this panel would probably agree with me that when it comes to effective farming practices, it has to start with the soil. We need to know what's going into it, and by composting on site, that's one of the best ways you can manage that. So that's our main focus, is trying to get people to understand where healthy soil amendments can come from. FoodShare, we're open source with loads of educational material and resources. We work proudly with local community openly, which brings me to our next focus, which is how we animate our activities in the community. So right now we're partnered with the City of Toronto, and we're working with over 40 different sites, different community gardens and community centers across GTA, where we're basically implementing and helping facilitate composting programs. So what we do is we build our famous 3-bin systems, we deliver them, and we do a workshop with the communities, teaching them how to properly use them, how to manage them, and then how they can use the soil, how they can use the compost later on. We've had enormous success with these, with our locations. Actually, if the moderator can go to the next slide, you can see the map where we have, so those are just some of the locations that we have across the GTA that we're working with right now. But we've had enormous success. Some sites are able to process thousands of pounds of organic waste a year. Others do a little less, but overall, let's say last year alone, just through these sites, we were able to do 71,000 pounds. So it's quite a bit that we're doing with these communities. And what's happening here is much more than just creating compost. They're learning about how to keep waste out of the landfill. They're learning how to, feed their soils and things like that. But it's also done it's making things much more economic for them, economically viable. We're mitigating or removing the need to purchase our compost externally. I think that's one of our very important points for us with community compost is we want to find a way how we can connect people with economic benefits of composting to create a circular economy with zero waste. So that leads me to one of our other initiatives, which is our community compost exchange program. Very exciting program that we've launched and we're looking to build. And it was initiated by our very own Adam Dirks, who we will be hearing from shortly. But Adam brought this compost program to FoodShare, and it blew up immediately. Like it took off. Within the first year, 2019, we had over 100 households participating in it. And they contributed to the 56,000 pounds that BCI was composting on site. The way the program works basically is the households are able to bring their kitchen scraps to the farm in exchange for market bucks. They can then redeem those market dollars at the local farm market that we have at BCI to purchase the local organic crops that we're growing. So it's just one way in which we can connect people to, to the land, to healthy foods, and also to create that circular economy for them so that they can empower themselves with what's around them, what they have close to them. And then the final thing I think is just, FoodShare puts its money where our mouth is. We don't just talk the talk, we walk the walk. And at our warehouse, for instance, we process thousands of pounds of organic scraps, or organic food, weekly. And because of that, we're producing thousands of pounds of waste. So we're able to close the loop by composting that on site. Last year alone with COVID, unfortunately, we did about 25,000 pounds just at the office. But in a regular year where we're not limited, we're able to do about 40 to 50,000 pounds of organic scraps. So, we're able to do quite a bit. And we take that, turn that into a social enterprise where we're able to sell it to local community members at a subsidized price. So yeah, that's the compost program in a nutshell.
That is amazing, and thank you, Alonzo, for sharing with us. Up next with the School of Grown program is Adam. Can you please tell us where are you from and where you're going, and then tell us about your program, please.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. My name is Adam. I use they, them pronouns. Where I'm coming from, I grew up in rural Pennsylvania, so was surrounded by a lot of farms, and my mom and all my family comes from a farming background in Ireland, so I've been connected to the land for a very long time, and have found myself here in Toronto for the last 8 years, and I've been very blessed to get to work with FoodShare to continue some of these urban ag projects over the last couple of years. I'm working at our school grown program. So we run 2 sites in the city right now. We run a rooftop farm at Eastdale Collegiate Institute, and we run a market farm at our Burnhamthorpe Collegiate Institute. So we have one that is, they're both as urban as you can get. One is on a roof and one is 20 feet from Highway 427. So there's definitely quite an urban the urban agriculture experience going on. I guess I've mostly been kind of working at the Burnhamthorpe Collegiate Institute site. So our school grown program, we work with TSB high schools to animate school property that is not being used to create jobs, create education opportunities, and to continue creating more opportunities for youth to continue farming. Our program is run by youth, so I'm a youth that is also, so youth coordinate the program and youth are helping farm the program, which is really great. So we started our Burnhamthorpe Collegiate site about 2 years ago. We broke ground. It's a 3-acre space. We run a bunch of different programs that are kind of connected to the farm, being right on Highway 427. We started a reforestation project with different components of the school. So their green industries course, their horticultural technician program, which kind of started up with the farm. They've helped plan some of these spaces. So we've planted last year, 2 years ago, we planted about 1,000 trees and shrubs. And then next year we're planting 2,000 more. So the goal is to kind of create a kind of reforestation wildlife shelter belt that separates Highway 427 and the project. We have a 1-acre growing space. that all the food that we grow goes to, in 2019, we ran an on-site farm market that had about 200 participants a week. So 100% of the food we grew went to that market. Last year, we had to pivot a little bit, and we were able to send most of our produce to the Good Food Box program, which was able to get extended across the city, which was really great. This year, we're slowly transitioning, similar to the model that Carl mentioned. We're slowly transitioning about half of that acre to 1 to acre and quarter space to convert into spaces that youth can run their own farm businesses. So again, they'll get access to our tools, our water. They'll get access to whatever kind of expertise is on site, seeds and seedlings, and they're able to run their own businesses that can kind of jumpstart, hopefully, careers in urban agriculture or in farming or food production or food growing. So those projects are varying, and we're really excited about what's going to happen next year with that. We also have a acre orchard. We have planted about 120 apple trees with also a mix of some pear, mulberry, and elderberries. So that space, those trees are doing really well. We're hoping to get fruit for the first time next year. We're really excited about the space. We also run we have a composting program that is built on an old abandoned tennis court on the area that we were able to process about 50,000 pounds in 2019 of food waste. And so we produce almost as much of the compost as we can to use on our site. And and in these photos, that you're seeing, we harvest a lot of cabbage. At the very bottom, there's a bunch of different images of some of our harvests that vary across the program. And it's a really, really beautiful space. So please come and visit. There was a video that was released this morning that was shot with our team in the fall, I think towards the end of the season, but it's a really great video that kind of shows you some of the different elements of the program. So if you're here in this conversation, you probably got an email with that this morning. So please take a look, and thanks. Back to you, Tamara.
Thank you so much, Adam. Up next, we have Echo with BCI. Echo, can you please tell us where you're from and where you're going, and then about the program, please?
Great. Hi. I'm going to turn off my camera just because I don't know, my internet quality is poor or my Chromebook is poor or both. So don't take it personally. I'm just gonna turn it off so you can hear me properly. But yeah, hi, I'm Echo, I was originally born in Victoria, BC, but I came of age here in Toronto, been living here for 12 years. And I describe myself as like a lifelong student of the environment, but formally speaking, I started studying environment and urban sustainability at Ryerson University. And that was a great program, but as most academic programs, it was very high level, very abstract. And I wanted to get more of a concrete kind of idea of what my role could be, what my societal role could be towards making cities more sustainable, making our relationship with the environment less, antagonistic and more reciprocal and harmonious and all that good stuff. And I was really, really fortunate to come across Sundance Harvest's Growing in the Margins program. I was actually part of Shine Sundance's first cohort. And so, yeah, I describe myself as like a proud first alumni of that program. And there I learned some like pretty basic skills around food growing. And it was kind of a very big sign for me that this is the sort of work I would want to do, whether it be composting or growing food or growing flowers and herbs, just being on the land, doing the good work with Mother Nature. That was definitely just like a vocation of mine and a big sign. And then fast forward to 2020, panorama hit, and I found myself with a lot of free time working in the garden in my front yard here. And then when June came around, opportunity to work with FoodShare as a youth engagement coordinator for the school grown space came up, and I applied and I got the job. And that's what a little bit I'll be touching on and speaking about is kind of my experience there at School Grown as the youth engagement coordinator. I kind of touched on the two first points there. and that kind of transitioned from gardening during the pandemic towards farming. And it was just such a huge jump for me, just in terms of scale. It was really daunting. You know, you go from growing a couple tomatoes to growing hundreds of tomatoes and hundreds of cucumbers and hundreds of pepper plants and all that. And so it was a huge jump, but a welcome jump. And my experience at School Grown was phenomenal. It was definitely a learning curve, just because, again, just the scale of it all was quite a challenge. But there was just a lot of amazing peers like Kevin, who you'll hear from next, and Nafisa and Alam. There's a great picture of us in the next slide. There's great mentorship from Carl, from Adam, from Orlando, and just overall camaraderie as well, where even though formally speaking, you know, Adam was the farm coordinator, I was the youth engagement coordinator, and then there were youth farmers and student internships. Everybody had their own kind of lived experience and formal experience, skills and knowledge about things that they could offer to the program, that made it so, you know, it was a very kind of supportive and cooperative environment where, even though Adam had all of this experience and knowledge, there'd be often times where they just straight up ask us, what should we do next? Because, you know, as anybody is familiar with working on the farm, there's 1,000 things you can do. And sometimes just having an extra input in terms of what to prioritize is pretty essential. Let me see here. Yeah. In terms of like the sort of things that we were doing at the farm, there is a lot of workshops. I mean, the pandemic, as I understand, I wasn't there last year, but there's a huge shift in what School Grown could offer to the youth farmers and what kind of programming that we had. And so there was not much offsite individuals and people coming on to site just because of COVID-19 and having to have proper protocols and space like and stuff like that in order to protect everybody's health. But there is still plenty of opportunities for workshops. We did a lot of learning about composting, about working on the BCS with the tractor, proper harvesting skills, and all sorts of kind of farming management stuff. We canned some amazing peppers. We made amazing hot sauce and stuff like that. So even though there's a lot of constraints around the pandemic, we still kind of found ways to have kind of experiential learning with all the youth on site and stuff like that. And there would still be people who came to the farmers market the previous year who would want to come by and, you know, bring us cookies or bring us food, and we would give them some Swiss chard here and there. And so it kind of just highlights the importance of community-based farming, where even if these big disruptive things happen, there's still access and opportunity for community members to just simply touch base and to know where and how and why their food is being grown. I think that's just so important, and that's something that School Grown definitely does and continues to do. And yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. It was a phenomenal experience. And yeah, there's a great picture of us eating some yummy V's, some vegan Caribbean food. And yeah, that's Adam, Lou, who was a School Grown coordinator, but was taking some time off to write a book. Alam, Nafisa, Kevin, me in the middle there, and Chris. And yeah, it was a dope time.
Thanks, Echo, and thank you for highlighting some of the ways that us at FoodShare are trying to, or are dismantling traditional hierarchies and bringing the community piece into everything we do. Thank you very much. Kevin, can you please tell us where are you coming from, where are you going, and then tell us about your experience at BCI.
Yes, hello everybody, Kevin here. So a little bit of background about me is I have experience in working in hospitality, primarily in kitchens. So with being around food all the time and being exposed to local food, I really wanted to learn how to grow food. So I started volunteering in community gardens across Toronto, which led to my interest in urban ag, agriculture, and community work, which I went to school at George Brown studying community work, and I did my placement with at FoodShare, which landed me a job at School Grown. So now I'm here. What's next for me is it's really hard to tell, but I would like to work in urban ag in the future. That's basically, and with the school grown opportunity with the incubator program, the youth grown, Echo and I are going to be starting like a flower herb farm, which we're really excited about. So Mike's position at the school grown this year was being an apprentice. Uh, I got, I was working closely with Adam and Echo, who are the farm and youth coordinators. I got to assist in ordering and harvesting for the Good Food Box, creating day-to-day tasks. Eventually, I was able to lead or take over on days where Adam or Echo were away or busy at the farm. One of the things that I got to lead on was since it was COVID and there was no market, we weren't able to sell our produce anywhere. However, there were like teachers, staffs, and daycare workers who wanted to buy from us directly. So we created sort of like a CSA or order form for them to choose what they want at the farm, and then we'll just deliver them right to the classroom and office. So my experience with working at BCI has always been amazing. This is my second year working at the farm. I get to work with amazing youth coordinators who are really passionate and excellent and about like their work and creating like a safe and happy environment workplace. This program gives a lot of opportunity. I believe that like farming in an urban area allows community building. It builds kind of like a structure for affordable, local, and healthy food for the community rather than just relying on big boxes, grocery stores. The community can also contribute to the farm through our programs like the community compost exchange, and also with hiring youths to work at the farm. They're exposed to direct like hands-on education on food and environmental literacy. They can learn about where the food comes from and how they're grown, and also the ecosystem that we have going on at the farm, like Adam was telling us about. As you can see, like in our slides, in my slide, that there are pictures. There's actually a picture of me taken by Adam, where I'm in a full of a sea of okra, as you can see. I'm wearing a short, long sleeves in the picture because it gets really itchy, and it's like harvesting okra is really challenging. The second picture is like you can see like the aftermath of how many uh, okras I have harvested as well. Another moment I took at the farm was Echo being sitting at the hammock after like a long day of work. It's great for like resting. So hammocks were really a good thing at the farm. Um, the last photo is a picture of what our harvest station would normally look like. I think beets are very fun to harvest, and that day we had to harvest about 100 bunches or something like that, which is a lot. I think that like documenting the farm was important because we get to see the process of the farm from start to beginning, and also like how beautiful everybody is and like how amazing our produce can be. And I think I've taken about like 200 photos, so that was a great experience for me. Thank you all.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing. And thank you to everyone who shared their story and their experience at FoodShare in our community. I can't just call them gardens because some of them are full out farms. So in our community gardens and in our farms. Now we will like to open up the floor for any questions to create a discussion about how we're generating change in the community. Maybe explore a little bit deeper the changes that we have seen. So if the moderator could ask any questions that were put in the chat, that would be great. If not, yeah, I can start with a question. But if there's any questions in the chat or anyone would like to raise their hand and speak, please feel free to do so now. Okay, just to avoid radio silence and to get the ball rolling, would one of our panelists like to share one good memory that came from the garden? Maybe working at the garden or working with one of our volunteers.
Hi, Tamara, this is Orlando. I have a couple questions for the panelists. And
Great,
I
sure.
can start to asking, this is directly for to Carol from Karina. She wants to know, will this entrepreneurial project be considered a farm incubator, the Flemo Farm? And if so, what are the conditions for the prospective farmers to join this program? For example, previous farming experience, a degree of existing knowledge, or others. Also, if you feel comfortable answer, do you want to rent lands on McBean Farm by any chance? So this question is directly for Carol.
Sure, I can try to address that. We haven't used the term incubator because the idea at Flemo Farm is not necessarily that people need to leave at some point. The idea is that this will become the community farm that they operate completely internally over time. And so an incubator is kind of set up with the idea you are there for a few years, you establish your business, and then you move somewhere else. But here it's a farm and people are allowed to stay there long term. So that's why we don't really use the term incubator to describe it. And that's what makes it different from the McBean farm project. That's a whole other question to get into about the McBean project, which I don't think is really appropriate to talk about it right here. And in terms of the qualifications, so the main eligibility requirement is that you are a resident of the neighborhood or in the area of the farm. And then once you're kind of meet that eligibility requirement, then there's other factors that are looked at that was developed by the selection committee, experience being one of them. And then the application form is essentially asking people to develop a micro farm plan, like a little business plan. And so it's then just kind of assessing their readiness to actually launch a micro farm business. And we've actually, all the applications have been submitted. The application deadline was February 1st, and the interviews have just been completed. And the steering committee is meeting on this Thursday, to select the community farmers. So hopefully that answers your question.
Thanks, Carl. Will people have an opportunity to apply next year since it's already closed?
So we don't know what's going to happen exactly next year. So it's possible that more land will become available in 2022, but we don't know yet. Again, this is our first year, and so we don't know exactly what's going to happen.
Okay, so just keep checking the website, I guess. Okay, thank you. Orlando, is there another question in the chat?
Yes, this is coming from Pinar, and she wants to know how does any get involved as volunteer gardens or farming for the different projects, and especially like BCI farm if you are not a youth. I think this is for Adam can answer this question. Yeah.
Hi, Pinar. So yeah, I guess we have in 2019 we had a lot of volunteers. In 2020 we had a lot of protocol in space. We were able to have volunteers during the summer. We have right now we have a limit of 10 people on site, so it really depends on who's coming in what day. On the next slide after this, you'll be getting all of our contact info. So if you just kind of copy that, or anyone who's interested, you can just kind of reach out to any of us, and you can kind of ask us what opportunities are available. For BCI, you know, our priority is like for when we're hiring and for positions on the farm are youth. But for volunteers, we have folks coming from all over the city, folks from different ages in the community. The school that we work with at BCI is an adult learning center, so most of the youth we're working with are 18 and over in that space. So yeah, so everyone's welcome.
Great, thank you.
I have one more.
Next question? Yeah.
I have one more here from Leah, and this is for everybody. What is the process for getting a new farm set up in a new part of the city? I'm guessing it's the city of Toronto. So somebody want to answer this question?
How about you, Orlando? You haven't spoken yet. Let's hear from Orlando.
Yeah, okay. Hi, everybody. So my name is Orlando. I don't know if you can see me. I can put my camera on. This is a great question, and I can answer a little bit about these ones. I will say every community space, they have their, the power to decide what they wanted to see on their own space, in their own community, and they can come in as a collective group. So to answer this question, it is like, yes, you can do it. It's not an easy answer to say how it is the process, because it will depend on what kind of land are you looking. And all the times you need to identify what is the available land on your community, bring people together. And when you bring people together, you bring a lot of knowledge from the residents and the community and expectations. For example, one of the residents can be having experience to do a lot of drawing, and you can have your architectural designs. Other experience have experience to doing grant writings, and other can have experience to growing food. So to answer this question all the time, I say, okay, you can looking about the use of the land through the city of Toronto and what is the priority for each neighborhood. We recognize it is a lot of the green spaces available in the city, but you need to get a permit before you go able to grow food or in starting community gardens, and require different kind of criteria and components to apply. The second other space where you can look in, it is like the school boards. They have a lot of lands, and you can look in like with the teachers or principals or the school, how you can navigate it with them to get access to that spaces. And the third ones I will say is the faith organizations like synagogues, churches, where they own lands, and then you can talk working with them how they can provide that green space to grow food. So the process is depending for every of these big, large, I want to call organization maybe, or an entity who own the land in the city of Toronto, and they have like different criteria. I will suggest to go to the website for every of these organizations. So you go to the city of Toronto under park, forestry and recreation, under community garden, you can find there the sections, what do you need to do. And I would say the most important is you bring the people together, have the community led, and have the engagement, and you must to involve like your counselor. So sending letter to the counselor, what is important is for you about food security and community engagement in your own neighborhood. Yeah.
I feel like I should mention that Carl and Orlando were giggling between themselves because having set up so many projects between both of them, especially Flemo Farm being fresh in mind, is a lengthy process. You need to be patient, you need to be resilient, and don't accept no when it comes. And it may take a short while, may take a long while, but don't stop. Keep finding avenues and ways to do it. But yeah, this giggling just comes from like life experience of having to go through so many bureaucratic process and red tape, and they've done amazing work, but it has taken years. And yeah, this resiliency and patience is a big piece of starting a community garden.
And you're raising a great point there as well, Tamara. I would say in my experience working here as in supporting other leaders in the community, I had experience with some community groups where they get access to their own community gardens in a period of 3 months when they submit their request to the landowner. And I have other groups where we are still working for the last 4 years to doing the negotiation. So I would say every case, it is like unique, but it is like the persistency and the connections and to keeping the people like together and animating those spaces, because that will be depends of, I would say everything is very political, and especially farming is very political, growing food is political too. because how you can bring people together and have like those conversations, and to create a committee too, where people feeling like this is something where we need it in our spaces. Yeah.
Great. Is there another?
Yes,
Yep.
I have other question here, and this coming from Paul Taylor, and this is go for everybody. What excited you the most about the future of urban agriculture in Toronto?
I go first. Yeah, I think what excites me is, you know, again, like during the pandemic, what we've noticed is a lot more people, having more time, you know, good and bad, but a lot of folks have recognized that their interest in food, food justice and food sovereignty, and their desire to grow food for themselves, either recreationally or because they actually needed to. And moments like this, when we're kind of in crisis and our overarching systems don't necessarily support us in a way that we maybe imagined they would, people recognize that they have some individual power over their lives to do something like grow food. And of course, like make the sourdoughs and all the other things that people are doing during the pandemic. But so I see this moment as a potentially pivotal and critical moment where people are recognizing that food justice, food sovereignty, and the role that urban agriculture can play can be quite critical in that arena, and that people are excited about it and that people want it. So I'm hopeful that one of the outcomes of this pandemic can be that we do have a larger focus on urban agriculture, and people's interest in it and people's understanding of its importance just gets heightened. And we see that in the form of, you know, more supports from our municipality, but just also more interest from community members in starting their own community gardens and growing food in their backyard and sharing food with each other, and knowing that we as community members have the ability to empower ourselves and each other to grow food and to nourish each other through that.
Thank you, Natalie.
See, Adam want to.
Yeah, I could jump in. I guess, I mean, I feel like this is a great question for all of us. So, I mean, I guess anyone who wants to, you know, chime in can. But I mean, thanks for the question, Paul. You know, I think some of what I've been noticing going on, you know, I've farmed rurally for a bunch of years, and I've farmed in other cities doing urban agriculture, and I found my way to Toronto. And you know, a change that I've been kind of seeing with the Flemo farm, and you know, I think that's being initiated, is how, you know, like how sometimes connecting with the city and with TRCA, connecting with the TDSB. There's a ton of paper. There's so much legality work, and they make it nearly impossible for community groups to access those spaces. They make it impossible financially and through like logistically. And you know, I think FoodShare has had the ability to kind of work with those organizations. We have the long-term, you know, capacity to spend 10 years working on a project. I know that the BCI farm, and Orlando, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think it took 6 or 7 years to even start that project. And I think that needs to change. It shouldn't take that long. It shouldn't take hundreds of thousands of dollars to open up an acre of space for community residents. Like, that needs to change. So whatever kind of municipal and logistical stuff that can speed that process up. Hopefully some of the work that is happening now on the ground with many organizations will figure out how to cover some of those barriers and allow community quicker, easier, cheaper, less logistical access to what is tons of space that exists around the city. I've been really excited about this kind of shift that's happening in, you know, when as an institution, we do get access to those spaces. So how can we make sure that as many folks are able to you know, work on that space as possible? So like the Flemo model of kind of these entrepreneurial like farm businesses, School Grown is switching to offering that kind of model for folks to run their own businesses. Sundance Harvest has been creating education programs and also finding space across the city for folks to start their own farms. So some of those shifts that are allowing more independent self-sovereignty in urban agriculture, like running your own business, being your own boss, growing food for your community is huge. You know, an example for BCI is the nearest grocery store is a Loblaws, and you go there and let's say you try to buy a Scotch bonnet pepper. They have a pack of 5 peppers for $6, saran wrapped, or, you know, folks are growing them on the BCI farm, and you can get a whole pint of 20 peppers for $3.50. Or you grow your own plants and you get thousands. So kind of removing some of those barriers that even grocery stores and big grocery stores are putting up, to even like making sure culturally appropriate food is available is. So yeah, that future, I'm excited about those changes that are happening, and especially with organizations that have lack access to land through institutional connections are making that land more accessible to the community.
Amazing. Thank you. Does someone else want to share, or is there another question, Orlando?
I wanted to add it there too as well. Thank you, Paul, for asking that question. What I see urban agriculture is to bring in new representations and faces in our food system too as well, like more by Black, Indigenous, and people of color to take in as in a leadership roles and in the ground, you know. And as we know, they are very important, you know, and they are very like dedicated folks to working in the food systems. And Adam mentioned how like FoodShare, we take like our like in our organization structure to support those groups, and how we can like support them to coming with some kind of specific like support and trainings and resources where they can, I don't want to say the word replicate, but they can adapt all the programs where we have been doing for the last year, a few years here about urban agriculture. And I want to recall, it is in the city of Toronto are over 400 community gardens across the city, you know, and they are very unique too as well. And that how we can lift those community groups who are taking the lead of those spaces, and how they can get all the resources. So it's in a big movement. For example, it's coming the city Saturday without it's coming online. So how that can be in a in a space where people like coming and gathering and get share knowledge and their living experience. So it's a lot of potential. A few months ago, FoodShare like we support with other like grassroots how we can look into access to land, for example, with 2 main golf courses across the city of Toronto, where we can take some, asking for one portion of those spaces where you can animate it as an urban agriculture and growing food. We have mileage of and kilometers of hydrolands where just now it's like in a piece of grass growing there, is nothing else. How you can transform that in edible food or orchards where you can get access. And as I mentioned earlier, you know, this thing is like not an easy solution, but this is a responsibility from the government and the municipality to support the residents to get access to food and recreation too as well. Because those spaces is not only for gathering and people coming together, is to know your neighborhood too as well, and to growing food. And the most important is to be able to grow cultural appropriate food for your own needs. That is something where it's a very unique on those community spaces. And I see that as an urban agriculture is coming, how like a lot of new voices and young people are interested to see this as a career right now, because it is sad to see like, oh, not sad, I don't want to say sad, but it's very disturbing to see like who are the folks who getting opportunity to participate in educational about urban agricultural, who are the people who got into those like trainings, and how other folks they don't have the opportunity to go as learning about farming and get like compensations and wages, and how they can start their own like business plans, or why not to buy their own farm in Ontario.
Okay, that's a great point, Orlando. I hate to be this person, but I will have to wrap us up now. So thank you for all joining us today. Here are all the ways you may become involved with FoodShare and make a difference in the community. On our website, you will find career opportunities and links to our programming. You will also find many resources for starting your own garden and compost, as well as you can purchase a weekly food box and other goods on our website. If you have any other questions or would like to connect with any of our community leaders, please feel free to do so by emailing them at the address seen now. Thank you again to our sponsor, FoodShare Social Enterprise, and G. McGuetch. Have a good day, everybody.